I stood at the bedroom window, my hands gripping the edge of the sill so tightly that my knuckles turned white. From my vantage point, I watched my wife, Jessica, walk up the driveway with a bottle of wine cradled in her arms. Her eyes sparkled with a happiness I hadn't seen in years, but I knew that joy wasn't because of me. It all started 2 weeks ago when I accidentally picked up her phone instead of mine. The text message notification blinked innocently on the screen, but the words were anything but. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. Mike." My heart raced, and my mind swirled with disbelief. We had been married for 15 years, and I believed we had a solid, unbreakable bond. Desperate for clarity, I did something I never thought I would do. I hired a private investigator. His findings were swift and merciless. Jessica was having an affair with Michael, a colleague from her work. The evidence was undeniable. Photos of them together, videos of their clandestine meetings, and recorded conversations full of intimate confessions. Armed with the truth, I confronted Jessica that night. She walked into the house and I met her at the door, the tension in the air palpable. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion and worry. "What's wrong, John?" she asked, setting the bottle of wine on the kitchen counter. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone, showing her the damning messages and photos. "Don't lie to me, Jessica. I know everything." Her face went pale, and she stumbled back as if physically struck by my words. For a moment she tried to deny it, to weave a web of lies, but the truth was a powerful weapon. Finally, she broke down, tears streaming down her face as she confessed. "I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean for it to happen. I've been so unhappy in Mike. He made me feel alive again," she said between sobs. My heart ached, but not with sympathy. It was filled with a burning rage and a deep sense of betrayal. 15 years, Jessica. 15 years of marriage, and this is how you repay me? Her silence was deafening. The trust that once bound us was shattered, replaced by an insurmountable chasm. That night, as I lay in our bed, I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. She had to feel the same pain she had inflicted upon me. The next day, I began to plot my revenge. I quietly started transferring assets and money into accounts she couldn't touch. I met with a lawyer in secret, outlining my plans for the divorce and ensuring that I would come out on top. I was determined to leave her with nothing. I even took steps to tarnish her social standing. I subtly spread rumors about her affair among our friends and colleagues, ensuring that everyone knew the truth. The looks of pity and disdain she received were just the beginning of her downfall. One evening, I arranged a meeting with Michael. We sat in a dimly lit bar and I laid out my terms. "You will leave this town, or I will destroy you," I told him. His face turned ashen, and he knew I wasn't bluffing. With the divorce papers ready, I sent them to her at work, ensuring her public humiliation. The fallout was swift. Jessica lost her job, her friends turned their backs on her, and Michael disappeared from her life. Standing on the porch of our house, I watched the sunset, feeling a strange mix of sorrow and satisfaction. Despite the pain and betrayal, I had survived. My life was no longer intertwined with hers, and a new chapter awaited me, one filled with possibilities and, perhaps, true happiness. After that fateful confrontation, the days seemed to blur together. Each morning, I woke up in an empty bed, the absence of Jessica's warmth a constant reminder of her betrayal. The house, once filled with laughter and shared memories, now echoed with a cold, hollow silence. I threw myself into my work, hoping to drown out the pain. But no matter how many hours I spent at the office, the gnawing sense of loss followed me everywhere. I couldn't escape the images of Jessica and Michael together, their whispered conversations, their stolen moments of passion. It was like a recurring nightmare I couldn't wake up from. One evening, I returned home to find Jessica sitting at the dining table, a somber expression on her face. The divorce papers lay in front of her, untouched. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red from crying. "John, we need to talk," she said softly. I wanted to shout, to vent all my anger and frustration, but instead, I sat down across from her, maintaining a cold, detached demeanor. "There's nothing left to say, Jessica. You made your choice." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I refused to let my resolve waver. "I know I hurt you," she began, her voice trembling, "but please, let's try to understand each other. We owe that to ourselves after all these years." I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my composure. 15 years, Jessica. 15 years of trust, of love, of building a life together. And you threw it all away. How am I supposed to understand that? She reached across the table, her fingers grazing mine. I pulled my hand back as if burned. I felt lost, John, she confessed. I felt like I was drowning in our routine, and Mike, he was an escape, but I never stopped loving you. Her words only fueled my anger. Love? Do you call this love? You destroyed everything we built together for a fling. How do you expect me to believe anything you say now? Jessica sobbed, her shoulders shaking. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now, but can't we at least try to rebuild what we had? I stood up, my decision final. There's nothing left to rebuild, Jessica. Our marriage died the moment you decided to betray me. Sign the papers, and let's move on with our lives. Over the next few weeks, I watched as Jessica's world crumbled around her. She lost her job at the school, and her colleagues distanced themselves from her scandalous affair. Our friends, once in a tight-knit circle, sided with me, leaving her isolated and alone. I had ensured that her reputation was tarnished, just as she had tarnished our marriage. Meanwhile, I took every precaution to protect myself. With my lawyer's guidance, I secured our assets and made sure that I would come out of the divorce with everything I deserved. Jessica would be left with nothing but the consequences of her actions. One evening, as I was going through some old photo albums, I stumbled upon a picture of us from our wedding day. We looked so young, so full of hope and dreams. It was hard to reconcile those smiling faces with the reality of our present. A part of me ached for the love we had lost, but another part felt a grim satisfaction in knowing that justice was being served. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I noticed a change in Jessica. She seemed resigned, her once vibrant spirit now subdued. It was as if the weight of her choices had finally crushed her. And though a part of me felt a pang of pity, I reminded myself of the pain she had caused me. One night, while going through my emails, I received a message from an old friend. He had heard about the divorce and offered his support. His words were a stark reminder that I was not alone in this struggle. I had people who cared about me and who would stand by me no matter what. With renewed determination, I focused on rebuilding my life. I started attending social events, reconnecting with friends, and even exploring new hobbies. The wound Jessica had inflicted was still raw, but I was determined not to let it define me. Standing on the porch one evening, watching the sunset, I felt a sense of closure. The past was a painful chapter, but it was behind me now. The future, uncertain as it was, held the promise of healing and new beginnings. And as I took that first step forward, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. Despite my efforts to move on, the shadow of Jessica's betrayal loomed over me. Each day was a struggle to find a sense of normalcy in a world that had been turned upside down. I poured myself into work and tried to fill my time with activities that would distract me, but the pain was always there, just beneath the surface. One afternoon, as I was sorting through some old files in the attic, I stumbled upon a box I had never seen before. It was tucked away in a corner, covered in dust. Curious, I opened it and found a collection of letters and photographs. They were all from Jessica's past, from before we met. As I sifted through them, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. There were love letters from various men, each one professing their undying love for Jessica. The dates on the letters overlapped, suggesting that she had been juggling multiple relationships at once. My stomach churned as I realized that her infidelity might have been a part of her life long before she met me. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I began to dig deeper. I contacted some of her old friends and acquaintances, asking about her past. The stories they told confirmed my worst fears. Jessica had a history of cheating, of using people for her gain, and then discarding them when they were no longer useful. One evening, I confronted Jessica with the letters and the information I had uncovered. She was sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the TV when I walked in and dropped the box in front of her. "What is this, Jessica?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. "All these letters, these relationships, how long have you been living this double life?" She looked down at the box, her face pale. "John, I can explain," she stammered, but I cut her off. "Explain? What is there to explain? You've been lying to me from the very beginning. Our entire marriage was built on a foundation of deceit." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I was beyond caring. I thought you were different, Jessica. I thought you loved me. But now I see that you never really cared about anyone but yourself. Jessica broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry, John. I was young and stupid. I didn't know what I wanted. But I did love you. I still do. I shook my head, the anger giving way to a cold, hard resolve. Love isn't enough, Jessica. Not anymore. You've destroyed any trust we had, and I can't forgive that. As the divorce proceedings continued, I made sure to present the evidence of Jessica's past to my lawyer. It was a painful process, but it was necessary to protect myself and ensure that I got what I deserved. Jessica, on the other hand, was a shell of her former self. The weight of her actions had finally caught up with her, and she was paying the price. She lost not only her job and friends, but also any semblance of respect or dignity. Despite everything, a part of me still felt a pang of guilt. Watching her suffer was not as satisfying as I had imagined. The woman I had loved and married was gone, replaced by a stranger who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But life went on. I continued to rebuild, focusing on my future and the new opportunities that awaited me. I started dating again, cautiously at first, but gradually allowing myself to open up to the possibility of love. One day, while jogging in the park, I met a woman named Rachel. She was kind, intelligent, and had a warmth about her that was hard to resist. We started spending time together, and slowly, I began to feel a sense of hope and happiness that I thought was lost forever. As I stood on the porch one evening, watching another sunset, I felt a sense of peace. The scars from my past were still there, but they were healing. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face it. Jessica's betrayal had shattered my world, but it had also taught me valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of self-worth. As I took that first step toward a new chapter in my life, I knew that I was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to find true happiness. The divorce was progressing smoothly, but the pain Jessica had caused me was still fresh. I knew I couldn't let her walk away without facing the consequences of her actions. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about making sure she understood the depth of her mistakes and felt the same devastation I did. I began to formulate a plan. It was a calculated, meticulous strategy designed to dismantle every aspect of her life that she held dear. Jessica had taken so much from me, and it was time to take something back. First, I focused on our assets. With the help of my lawyer, I made sure that I would secure the majority of our financial holdings. I quietly transferred funds to accounts she couldn't access, ensuring that when the dust settled, she would be left with as little as possible. I knew this would be a blow to her, as she had always enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. Next, I targeted her professional life. I knew Jessica was respected at her school, admired by her colleagues, and loved by her students. She had built her career on the facade of being a dedicated and moral educator. I decided to expose her affair to the school administration. With the evidence I had gathered, it wasn't difficult to prove that her behavior was unbecoming of someone in her position. One evening, I met with the school principal, Mr. Thompson, under the guise of discussing a donation to the school's new library. As we talked, I subtly shifted the conversation to Jessica. I've been hearing some concerning things about my wife, I began, laying out the details of her affair with Michael. Mr. Thompson's face grew stern. This is serious, John. We have a strict code of conduct here. I'll have to investigate this matter thoroughly. Please do, I replied, handing over the evidence. The children deserve better than to have someone like her as a role model. Within a week, Jessica was called into a meeting with the school board. The evidence was irrefutable, and her reputation was irreparably damaged. She was suspended pending a full investigation, and the whispers among her colleagues grew louder. The woman who had once been the pride of the school was now its pariah. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted her to feel the social isolation that I had felt. I started to spread the news of her affair among our friends and neighbors. At first I was subtle, dropping hints in conversations. But as the rumors spread, the truth came out. People who had once admired Jessica now looked at her with disdain and pity. I could see the toll it was taking on her. Jessica, once so confident and vibrant, now looked worn and defeated. She avoided eye contact, her shoulders hunched under the weight of her guilt and shame. It was a small comfort to know that she was finally experiencing a fraction of the pain she had caused me. As the weeks passed, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. My plan was working, and Jessica was paying the price for her betrayal. But there was one more piece to the puzzle: Michael. I arranged a meeting with him at a local bar, choosing a quiet, secluded corner where we could talk without being overheard. Michael arrived, looking nervous and wary. He knew that his actions had consequences, but I wanted to make sure he understood just how severe those consequences would be. "Michael," I said, leaning in close, "you've made a huge mistake. You've destroyed my marriage and my trust. Now you're going to face the repercussions." He swallowed hard, his face pale. "What do you want from me, John?" "I want you to leave," I replied coldly. "Pack your things and get out of this town. If you stay, I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. Your career, your reputation, it will all be over." Michael nodded, his defeat evident. "I'll go," he said quietly. "Just, please, don't ruin my life any more than it already is." I watched as he left, a sense of closure washing over me. Jessica and Michael had both wronged me, and now they were paying the price. It was time for me to move forward, to rebuild my life on my terms. As I stood on the porch that evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The revenge I had sought was complete, but it hadn't brought me the peace I had hoped for. Instead, it had shown me the emptiness of my own heart, the void that Jessica's betrayal had left behind. But there was also a glimmer of hope. I had survived the worst, and now I was free to create a new future. The pain would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was ready to take the next step, to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. And so, with a deep breath, I turned away from the past and faced the future, determined to find happiness once more. The consequences of my actions reverberated through our community like a shockwave. Jessica's once enviable life was in tatters, and I could see the results of my calculated revenge taking shape. However, the satisfaction I initially felt began to morph into something more complex as I observed the devastation I had wrought. Jessica lost her job shortly after the school board's investigation concluded. The evidence of her affair with Michael was enough to terminate her employment, and the scandal made sure she wouldn't easily find another position in education. The school community, which once held her in high regard, now viewed her with disdain. Parents whispered among themselves, and students who used to adore her kept their distance. One afternoon, as I walked through town, I saw Jessica at a coffee shop. She was sitting alone, staring blankly at her cup. She looked fragile, as if the weight of everything had crushed her spirit. Part of me wanted to approach her, to say something, but I held back. This was the bed she had made, and now she had to lie in it. Our friends had also made their judgments. Invitations to social gatherings that once included both of us now only came to me. Jessica was effectively ostracized, a pariah in the very circles she once thrived in. I attended these events alone, receiving sympathetic glances and hushed condolences. It was clear where everyone's sympathies lay, and it wasn't with her. However, as time went on, I began to feel a gnawing emptiness. My life, which I thought would improve with Jessica out of the picture, felt hollow. I had succeeded in my plan to take everything from her, but in the process, I had also isolated myself. The friends who supported me still kept their distance, unsure how to navigate the new dynamics of our relationship. The community pitied me, but they also feared the ruthlessness I had shown. One evening, I received a call from Jessica's mother, Ellen. She was an older woman, kind and gentle, who had always treated me like a son. Her voice was strained, heavy with concern. "John, can we talk?" I agreed to meet her at a small diner on the outskirts of town. As I walked in, I saw her sitting in a booth, her hands clasped tightly around a mug of tea. She looked up as I approached, her eyes filled with sadness. "John," she began, "I know what Jessica did was unforgivable. She hurt you deeply, and I won't make excuses for her. But she's my daughter, and she's suffering. I've never seen her so lost." I sat silently, letting her words sink in. Ellen continued, "I understand why you did what you did, but don't you think it's enough now? You've made your point. Jessica is broken. She's lost everything." Her plea stirred something within me. I had been so consumed with revenge that I hadn't considered the long-term effects on Jessica or myself. Seeing the pain in Ellen's eyes made me realize that my actions had far-reaching consequences beyond just my relationship with Jessica. The next day, I decided to visit Jessica. It was time to confront the reality of what I had done and where we stood. I found her in the small apartment she had moved into after losing the house. It was a stark contrast to the life we had shared. She opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw me. "John, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I came to talk," I replied. "We need to put this behind us. It's time to move on." We sat in her small living room, the silence between us heavy. Jessica looked weary, her once vibrant energy now a distant memory. "I know I hurt you," she said finally, "and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I never wanted it to end like this." "I know," I said, the words surprising even myself. "And I'm sorry for how things turned out. We both made mistakes, and we've both suffered for them. But we can't keep living in this cycle of pain and revenge." For the first time in months, we spoke openly and honestly about our feelings, our mistakes, and the future. It wasn't easy, and it didn't fix everything, but it was a start. We agreed to finalize the divorce amicably and to try to find some semblance of peace. As I left her apartment, I felt a strange sense of relief. The chapter of our life together was finally closing, but it wasn't with the bitterness and anger that had dominated the past few months. Instead, there was a sense of resolution, a mutual understanding that we both needed to heal and move forward. Standing on my porch that evening, watching the sunset, I realized that revenge hadn't brought me the closure I sought. It had only deepened my wounds. True healing came from letting go of the past and finding the strength to forgive, even if I could never forget. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to navigate, and for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face whatever came next, with the hope of finding true happiness and peace. With the divorce finalized and my vendetta against Jessica laid to rest, I found myself at a crossroads. The path of revenge had left me feeling empty, and I knew it was time to focus on rebuilding my life. It was a daunting task, but I was determined to emerge stronger and wiser from this ordeal. I began by making some changes to my daily routine. I joined a local gym to release the pent-up stress and anger that had accumulated over the past months. Physical activity became a form of therapy, and as the weeks passed, I started to feel more like myself again. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it no longer consumed me. One Saturday morning, I decided to explore a nearby farmer's market. It was a vibrant place, full of fresh produce, handmade crafts, and cheerful people. As I wandered through the stalls, I felt a sense of normalcy returning to my life. It was a small step, but it was significant. At one of the stalls, I met Rachel again. She was browsing through a selection of fresh flowers, her face lit up with a warm smile. "John, it's good to see you here," she said, her eyes sparkling. "It's good to be out and about," I replied, feeling a genuine smile spread across my face. "How have you been?" Rachel and I struck up a conversation, and it felt easy and natural. She was kind and empathetic, and talking to her felt like a breath of fresh air. We exchanged phone numbers and agreed to meet for coffee the following week. Our coffee date turned into a series of meetings, each one more enjoyable than the last. Rachel was different from Jessica in many ways. She was grounded, sincere, and had a calming presence that I found comforting. Slowly but surely, I began to open up to the idea of a new relationship. As our connection grew, I invited Rachel to my house for dinner. It was the first time I had entertained anyone since Jessica left, and I was nervous. But Rachel's easygoing nature put me at ease. We cooked together, laughed, and shared stories from our past. It felt like a new beginning, a fresh start that I desperately needed. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch, Rachel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "John, I've noticed that you carry a lot of pain from your past. Have you ever considered talking to someone about it?" Her question caught me off guard, but she was right. Despite my efforts to move forward, there were still unresolved emotions that I needed to address. "I haven't," I admitted. "But maybe it's time I did." Rachel's support encouraged me to seek professional help. I started seeing a therapist, and through our sessions, I began to unpack the layers of hurt, betrayal, and anger that I had been carrying. It was a challenging process, but it was also incredibly liberating. I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made and to let go of the resentment I held towards Jessica. As the months passed, I found a renewed sense of purpose. I rekindled old friendships and pursued new interests. I even took up photography, a hobby I had always been passionate about, but had neglected over the years. Capturing the beauty of the world through my lens became a form of healing, allowing me to see life from a different perspective. My relationship with Rachel blossomed, and we became inseparable. She was patient and understanding, and she supported me through my ups and downs. With her by my side, I felt a sense of stability and joy that I hadn't experienced in a long time. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Rachel took my hand in hers. "John, I know this has been a difficult journey for you, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what." Her words touched me deeply, and I realized how fortunate I was to have found someone like her. "Thank you, Rachel," I said, squeezing her hand. "You've been my rock through all of this. I couldn't have made it without you." Life had a way of surprising me, and I had learned that even in the darkest moments there was always a glimmer of hope. My past with Jessica was a painful chapter, but it also led me to a place of growth and self-discovery. I was no longer the same person I had been, and for that, I was grateful. As Rachel and I sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a profound sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited about what lay ahead. With Rachel by my side and a renewed sense of purpose, I was ready to embrace the possibilities and find true happiness. And so, with the past behind me and the future before me, I took a deep breath and stepped into the next chapter of my life, hopeful and determined to make the most of every moment. Despite the progress I had made in rebuilding my life, there was one unresolved matter that lingered in the back of my mind: Michael. The man who had been the catalyst for the unraveling of my marriage still lived in our town, albeit keeping a low profile. I had made it clear to him that he should leave, but he hadn't. The sense of unfinished business gnawed at me. One afternoon, while driving through town, I saw Michael coming out of a grocery store. Seeing him ignited a surge of anger and a need for closure. I decided it was time to confront him directly and lay everything to rest. I parked my car and followed him down the street. "Michael!" I called out. He turned, surprise and a hint of fear flashing in his eyes. I approached him, my heart pounding. "We need to talk." He looked around nervously as if hoping for an escape route. "John, I thought we agreed that we wouldn't see each other again." "We did," I replied coldly. "But it seems you're still here, despite everything. I think we need to clear the air." Reluctantly, Michael nodded and led me to a nearby park. We sat on a bench, the tension between us palpable. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Why didn't you leave?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. "I thought I made myself clear." Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I tried, John, I did. But leaving everything behind isn't as easy as it sounds. I lost my job and my reputation. I have nothing left." "Because of your actions," I shot back. "You destroyed my marriage, my life, and now you expect sympathy?" He looked down, his shoulders slumping. "I know I don't deserve it. What I did was wrong, and I've paid for it in ways you can't imagine. But staying here is my only option right now. I'm trying to rebuild my life, just like you." For a moment we sat in silence, the weight of his words hanging in the air. As much as I wanted to hate him, I realized that continuing this cycle of anger and revenge would only hold me back. I had to find a way to move on, truly and completely. "Michael," I said finally, my voice softer, "I'm not here to ruin your life any further, but you need to understand the damage you caused. Jessica and I, we had 15 years together, and in a matter of months you helped tear that apart." He nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "I know, John, and I'm sorry. I am. If I could go back and change things, I would." I sighed, the anger slowly ebbing away. "We can't change the past, but we can decide how we move forward. I need closure, and I think you do too." Michael looked at me, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "What do you propose?" "We make a pact," I said. "We go our separate ways and focus on rebuilding our lives. No more interference, no more hostility, just a clean break." He nodded, relief washing over his face. "I can do that, John. I want to do that." We shook hands, a symbolic gesture of our mutual agreement. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a step towards letting go of the past. As I walked away, I felt a sense of lightness that had been missing for a long time. The confrontation with Michael, though difficult, had provided the closure I needed. That evening, I met Rachel for dinner. As we sat across from each other, I felt a renewed sense of peace. "I confronted Michael today," I told her, watching her reaction. "How did it go?" She asked, concern and curiosity in her eyes. "It was hard but necessary," I replied. "We came to an understanding. I feel like I can finally move on now." Rachel smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I'm proud of you, John. It takes a lot of strength to confront your past and let it go." Her words filled me with warmth and gratitude. Rachel had been my anchor through this turbulent time, and I was thankful for her unwavering support. Together, we navigated the challenges and emerged stronger. As we left the restaurant hand in hand, I felt a sense of optimism about the future. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I had faced my demons and come out the other side with a clearer perspective and a stronger heart. Standing on the porch that night, with Rachel by my side, I looked out at the horizon, the sun setting in a blaze of colors. It was a new beginning, a chance to build a future free from the shadows of the past. And with Rachel, I knew I had the strength and the courage to embrace whatever lay ahead. With the confrontation with Michael behind me, I felt a newfound sense of freedom. The burden of anger and resentment had been lifted, allowing me to fully embrace the present and look forward to the future. Rachel and I grew closer, our relationship deepening with each passing day. One crisp autumn afternoon, Rachel and I decided to take a drive out to the countryside. The leaves were turning vibrant shades of red, orange, and yellow, creating a picturesque landscape. We found a secluded spot by a serene lake and spread out a blanket for a picnic. As we sat together, enjoying the tranquility in each other's company, I felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. Rachel looked at me with her warm, compassionate eyes, and I knew I had found something special. "John," she began, her voice soft, "I want you to know how much you mean to me. You've been through so much, and yet you still have so much love and kindness to give." I took her hand in mine, feeling the sincerity in her words. "Rachel, you've been my rock through all of this. I don't know where I'd be without you." We spent the afternoon talking about our hopes and dreams, sharing stories from our pasts, and imagining a future together. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful and excited about what lay ahead. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the lake, I felt a surge of courage. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box. "Rachel, there's something I need to ask you." Her eyes widened in surprise as I opened the box to reveal a beautiful ring. "Rachel, will you marry me?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded, a radiant smile spreading across her face. "Yes, John. Yes, I will marry you." We embraced, our hearts full of joy and anticipation. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity as we planned our wedding. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family. The venue was a charming rustic barn surrounded by rolling hills and wildflowers, the perfect setting for our special day. On the morning of our wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie and taking a deep breath. The reflection staring back at me was a man who had faced tremendous challenges and emerged stronger. Today was a testament to resilience and the power of love. As I walked down the aisle, my heart swelled with emotion. Rachel stood at the end, looking stunning in her elegant dress, her eyes filled with tears of happiness. When our eyes met, I knew we were meant to be together. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with heartfelt vows and the support of those who cared about us. As we exchanged rings and shared our first kiss as husband and wife, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was the beginning of a lifetime of shared dreams and cherished moments. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a lively reception. Our friends and family danced, laughed, and toasted to our future. The barn was filled with warmth and joy, a stark contrast to the loneliness and pain I had once felt. Later that night, as Rachel and I stood under the stars, we reflected on our journey. "We've come so far," I said, holding her close, "and I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." Rachel smiled, her eyes shining with love. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." As we looked up at the night sky, I felt a profound sense of peace. The past was behind me, and the future was bright. With Rachel by my side, I knew I could face any challenge and embrace every opportunity. Our wedding day was just the beginning. Together, we would build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless adventures. And as we embarked on this new journey, I was ready to embrace every moment, knowing that the best was yet to come. Life with Rachel was everything I had hoped for and more. Our days were filled with joy, laughter, and a sense of partnership that I had never experienced before. But even as our new life together blossomed, the echoes of the past occasionally intruded, reminding me that healing is a continuous journey. One evening, while Rachel and I were sorting through some old boxes in the attic, we came across a collection of photos from my marriage with Jessica. Rachel paused, holding a picture of Jessica and me on our wedding day. "Do you want to keep these?" she asked gently. I stared at the photo, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. "I think it's time to let go of some of these," I said finally. "But maybe not all. They're part of my past, and I've learned from those experiences." Rachel nodded, understanding my sentiment. Together, we went through the photos, keeping a few that marked significant moments and discarding the rest. It was a cathartic process, one that allowed me to acknowledge my past while embracing the present. As the months passed, I continued to work with my therapist, delving deeper into the issues that had been unearthed by Jessica's betrayal. I learned to recognize and address the lingering feelings of inadequacy and mistrust. Rachel's unwavering support was instrumental in this process. She attended a few sessions with me, helping me navigate the complex emotions that surfaced. One day, after a particularly intense session, I came home feeling drained. Rachel was waiting for me, her eyes filled with concern. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice soft. I sighed, sinking into the couch beside her. "It was tough. We talked about forgiveness today. Not just forgiving Jessica, but forgiving myself." Rachel took my hand in hers. "John, you've been through so much. It's okay to take your time with this. Just remember that you're not alone." Her words were a balm to my weary soul. I realized that while the road to healing was long, I didn't have to walk it alone. Rachel was by my side, and together we could face anything. As part of my healing process, I decided to reach out to a few old friends I had distanced myself from during the turmoil with Jessica. I wanted to reconnect and rebuild those relationships that had been affected by my pain and anger. One afternoon, I met up with Tom, an old college buddy, at a local coffee shop. We had lost touch over the years, and I was eager to reconnect. As we sat down with our coffees, Tom looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "John, it's been a while. How have you been?" I smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "It has, and I've been through a lot. But I'm doing better now. I'm working on rebuilding my life, and part of that is reconnecting with old friends." Tom nodded, understanding. "I heard about what happened with Jessica. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it's good to see you're moving forward." We spent hours catching up, reminiscing about old times and sharing our current lives. It felt good to reconnect, to have someone who understood my past and supported my future. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Rebuilding these connections was another step in my journey toward healing. Rachel and I also focused on building new traditions and experiences together. We took weekend trips to explore nearby towns, went hiking in the mountains, and even started a small garden in our backyard. These shared activities strengthened our bond and created a sense of stability and joy in our lives. One memorable trip was to a quaint seaside town. We spent the weekend walking along the beach, collecting seashells and enjoying the fresh ocean air. One evening, as we watched the sunset over the water, Rachel turned to me with a contented smile. "This is perfect, John. Moments like these remind me of how lucky we are." I wrapped my arm around her, feeling the warmth of her love and the peace of our shared future. I couldn't agree more. I'm grateful for every moment we have together. As our life together continued to flourish, I found myself more at peace with my past. I no longer viewed my experiences with Jessica as a source of pain, but rather as valuable lessons that had shaped who I was. With Rachel, I had found not just a partner, but a true companion who supported and uplifted me. The healing journey was far from over, but I was no longer defined by the scars of my past. Instead, I was defined by my resilience, my capacity for love, and my determination to build a bright and fulfilling future. Standing on our porch one evening, with Rachel by my side and the stars shining brightly above, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Life had brought me through the storm and into a place of peace and happiness. And with Rachel, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, stronger and more united than ever. As Rachel and I settled into our life together, I realized there was one more bridge I needed to rebuild: my relationship with my family. Throughout the turmoil of my divorce and the ensuing chaos, I had distanced myself from them, partly out of shame and partly because I didn't want to burden them with my troubles. It was time to change that. One weekend, I called my younger sister, Lisa. She had always been my confidant growing up, but we had grown apart over the years. "Hey, Lisa," I began, my voice a mix of nervousness and anticipation. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'd like to come visit you and the kids." There was a brief pause before she replied, her voice warm and welcoming. "John, I've missed you. Of course, come over. The kids would love to see their uncle, and so would I." The following Saturday, Rachel and I drove to Lisa's house. It was a beautiful suburban home, filled with the sounds of children playing and the smell of something delicious cooking in the kitchen. As we pulled into the driveway, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Lisa greeted us at the door with a wide smile and a hug that conveyed all the missed years and unspoken words. "John, it's so good to see you," she said, her eyes misty. "It's good to see you too, Lisa," I replied, feeling the warmth of her embrace. "This is Rachel." Rachel and Lisa exchanged warm greetings, and we were soon ushered into the living room, where Lisa's two kids, Emma and Jake, were playing. They looked up, their faces lighting up with joy. "Uncle John!" they shouted in unison, running over to hug me. We spent the day catching up, playing with the kids, and enjoying a home-cooked meal that reminded me of our childhood. As the evening drew near, Lisa and I found a quiet moment on the porch. The kids were inside playing a board game with Rachel, and the soft glow of the setting sun cast a serene light over the yard. "John, I know it's been tough for you," Lisa began gently. "I wish you had reached out sooner. We're family, and we're here for you no matter what." I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "I know, Lisa, I didn't want to drag you into my mess, but I've realized that I need my family now more than ever." Lisa placed a hand on my arm, her eyes full of understanding. "We all make mistakes and go through hard times. What matters is that we're here for each other now." Reconnecting with Lisa and her family was the first step. Over the next few weeks, I reached out to my parents, who lived a few hours away. They had always been supportive, but I'd kept them at a distance, not wanting to admit how much I was struggling. One Sunday, Rachel and I drove out to their home. My mother greeted us with tears of joy, and my father's stoic expression softened into a warm smile. "It's good to see you, son," he said, pulling me into a bear hug. Sitting around the dinner table, I shared my journey over the past year. My parents listened intently, their faces a mix of concern and pride. "John, we've always believed in you," my mother said, her voice quivering with emotion. "You've been through so much, but you've come out stronger. We're so proud of you." My father nodded in agreement. "Life has its way of testing us, but you've shown incredible resilience. And Rachel, thank you for being there for our son." Rachel smiled warmly. "John has been my rock as much as I've been his. We're a team." The support and love from my family filled a void I hadn't realized was there. It was a reminder that no matter how far we drifted, family was always there to anchor us. Over the next few months, I made it a priority to stay connected with my family. We organized family gatherings, celebrated birthdays, and created new memories. Rachel fit seamlessly into these moments, her kindness and warmth endearing her to everyone. One evening, as Rachel and I were driving back from a family barbecue, she turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "John, your family is wonderful. I'm so glad you reconnected with them. It's clear how much they care about you." I smiled, reaching over to take her hand. "I'm glad too. They've been a missing piece in my life, and having them back means everything to me." As we drove through the quiet, moonlit streets, I reflected on how far I had come. The journey from betrayal and heartache to healing and growth had been arduous, but it had also been profoundly transformative. With Rachel by my side and my family's support, I felt whole again. Life was far from perfect, but it was rich with love, connection, and new beginnings. And as I looked forward to the future, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them with the strength and resilience that had brought me this far. The decision to buy a house together marked a new chapter in my life with Rachel. It symbolized not just a physical space, but the creation of a sanctuary where we could build our future together. We spent several weekends touring homes, discussing what we wanted and envisioning the life we would create. One sunny Saturday we found it, a charming two-story house on the outskirts of town. It had a wraparound porch, a spacious yard, and a cozy interior that felt instantly like home. Rachel's eyes lit up as we walked through the rooms, and I could see the same excitement mirrored in her expression. "This is it," she said, squeezing my hand. "This is our home." I agreed, feeling a surge of happiness and anticipation. We made an offer, and within a few weeks the house was ours. Moving in was a whirlwind of packing, unpacking, and organizing, but it was also an opportunity to start fresh and make the space truly ours. We painted the walls in warm, inviting colors, picked out furniture that reflected our tastes, and added personal touches that made the house feel like a home. Rachel's creativity shone through in the decor, and together we created a space that was both beautiful and functional. One of the first projects we tackled was the backyard. It was a blank canvas, and we were eager to transform it into an outdoor oasis. We built a small garden where we planted flowers, herbs, and vegetables. Working side by side in the dirt, we laughed and dreamed about the meals we would cook with our homegrown produce. We also set up a patio area with comfortable seating, a grill, and twinkling string lights. It quickly became our favorite spot to relax in the evenings, sipping wine and watching the stars. The sense of accomplishment and joy we felt in creating this space together was unparalleled. As the months passed, our new home became the center of our life together. We hosted family gatherings, inviting Lisa and her kids, my parents, and friends to share in our joy. The house was filled with laughter, love, and the sound of children playing, creating new memories that would last a lifetime. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching a summer storm roll in, Rachel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "John, I've been thinking. I'd love to start a family someday. What do you think?" Her words filled me with warmth and hope. The idea of raising children with Rachel, of filling our home with even more love and laughter, felt like the natural next step in our journey. "I'd love that too, Rachel," I replied, taking her hand. "I can't think of anything better than building a family with you." We continued to settle into our home and our life together, each day bringing new experiences and deeper connections. The house was not just a place to live, but a reflection of our love and partnership. It was a testament to the journey we had taken, the challenges we had overcome, and the bright future we were building together. One weekend, we decided to throw a housewarming party to celebrate our new home with friends and family. The preparations were a labor of love, with Rachel baking her famous cookies and me grilling up a feast. Our guests arrived, their faces lighting up as they explored our home and enjoyed the festivities. As the evening drew to a close, we gathered around a fire pit in the backyard, toasting marshmallows and sharing stories. Lisa's kids ran around laughing and playing, while my parents sat contentedly, watching the scene with smiles on their faces. It was a perfect moment, filled with the warmth of togetherness and the promise of the future. Later that night, as we cleaned up and prepared for bed, Rachel wrapped her arms around me. "This is exactly what I've always dreamed of," she said softly. "A home filled with love and the people we care about." I kissed her forehead, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "Me too, Rachel. This is just the beginning of our beautiful journey together." As we lay in bed listening to the sounds of the night, I reflected on how far we had come. From the pain and betrayal of the past to the healing and growth of the present, we had built a life that was rich with love and possibility. As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that with Rachel by my side, our home and our future would continue to flourish, filled with endless moments of joy and love. The next morning, I woke up early and made breakfast. As the smell of coffee and pancakes filled the air, Rachel joined me in the kitchen, her eyes still sleepy, but her smile bright. We sat together, savoring the quiet morning and planning our day. There was so much to look forward to, so many adventures yet to come. Standing on the porch, watching the sunrise, I felt a deep sense of peace. Our home was more than just a house. It was a symbol of our resilience, our love, and our commitment to each other. And with each passing day, we would continue to build a life that was beautiful, meaningful, and filled with the promise of a bright future together. With our home established and our lives intertwined in the most fulfilling ways, Rachel and I began to seriously consider expanding our family. The conversations that started as whimsical dreams about parenthood gradually turned into concrete plans. We were ready to take the next step, to welcome a new life into our world. One evening, after a particularly delightful dinner with Lisa and her kids, Rachel and I sat on our porch, sipping tea and watching the fireflies dance in the yard. "John, I think it's time," Rachel said softly, her hand resting on mine. "I think we're ready to start our family." Her words resonated deeply within me. I had thought about this moment often, and now it was here. "I think so too, Rachel. Let's do it." The following months were a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. We began by visiting a fertility specialist to ensure that everything was in order. The doctor reassured us that we were both healthy and gave us helpful advice on preparing for pregnancy. We followed her recommendations diligently, making small changes to our diet and lifestyle to create the best possible environment for our future child. One crisp autumn morning, Rachel came into the kitchen holding a pregnancy test, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and nervousness. "John, I think we should do this together." I took her hand, my heart pounding with anticipation. We waited for what felt like an eternity, and then, there it was, a positive result. Rachel and I hugged each other tightly, tears of joy streaming down our faces. We were going to be parents. The pregnancy journey was a beautiful experience. We attended every doctor's appointment together, marveled at the ultrasound images, and felt the first kicks with a sense of wonder. Our love grew even deeper as we prepared for the arrival of our child. We decorated the nursery in soft, calming colors, filling it with toys and books that would nurture our baby's imagination. One evening as we assembled the crib, Rachel paused and looked at me, her eyes shining. "John, I can't wait to see you as a father. You're going to be amazing." Her words touched me deeply. "And I can't wait to see you as a mother, Rachel. Our child is so lucky to have you." As Rachel's due date approached, our excitement reached new heights. We took long walks, talked about our hopes and dreams for our child, and shared quiet moments of reflection on how much our lives had changed since we first met. The bond between us was stronger than ever, fortified by the love and commitment we had for each other and our growing family. Finally, the day arrived. It was a sunny spring morning when Rachel went into labor. We rushed to the hospital, our hearts pounding with anticipation and nervous energy. The hours that followed were intense, filled with moments of pain, determination, and overwhelming emotion. And then our baby was born, a beautiful, healthy little girl. Rachel and I held her in our arms, marveling at the tiny miracle we had created. "Welcome to the world, Emma," I whispered, tears of joy streaming down my face. "We've been waiting for you." The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and joyful moments. We navigated the challenges of parenthood together, supporting each other through every diaper change and midnight feeding. Rachel was a natural mother, her warmth and patience shining through in every interaction with Emma. Watching them together filled my heart with a profound sense of love and gratitude. Our home, once a quiet sanctuary for just the two of us, was now filled with the sounds of a new life. Emma's laughter, her cries, and the soft lullabies Rachel sang to her became the soundtrack of our days. Each moment was a precious reminder of how far we had come and how much we had to look forward to. One evening, as I rocked Emma to sleep in the nursery, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak, I found love, hope, and a renewed sense of purpose. Rachel and Emma were my everything, and I was determined to be the best husband and father I could be. Standing on the porch that night, with Rachel by my side and Emma peacefully sleeping in my arms, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Our journey was far from over, but we were ready to face whatever came our way. Together, we had built a life filled with love, joy, and endless possibilities. The future was bright, and as I looked at my family, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Our home was a place of love and hope, and with Rachel and Emma, I had everything I could ever need. Parenthood brought immense joy, but it also presented challenges we hadn't anticipated. As Emma grew, so did the demands on our time, energy, and patience. Rachel and I were committed to being the best parents we could be, but there were moments when we felt overwhelmed and stretched thin. One particularly exhausting night, Emma was teething and inconsolable. Rachel and I took turns trying to soothe her, pacing the floor and singing lullabies. The sleepless nights were taking a toll on both of us, and our usually calm and understanding conversations sometimes turned into tense exchanges. "I don't know what else to do," Rachel said, her voice filled with frustration and exhaustion. "Nothing seems to help." I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll get through this, Rachel. It's just a phase. We'll figure it out together." In those moments, I realized the importance of supporting each other, not just as parents, but as partners. We needed to be there for one another, to listen and provide comfort, especially when things got tough. I made a conscious effort to remind Rachel how much I appreciated her, and she did the same for me. Those small gestures of love and gratitude helped us navigate the difficult times. Our support network of family and friends became invaluable. Lisa often came over to help with Emma, giving Rachel and me a chance to catch our breath and reconnect. My parents visited regularly, offering their wisdom and encouragement. Knowing we weren't alone made a significant difference. As Emma entered her toddler years, we faced new challenges. She was curious, energetic, and had a knack for getting into everything. Child-proofing the house became a priority, and Rachel and I learned to adapt to the ever-changing needs of our growing daughter. One afternoon while Rachel was at work, I took Emma to the park. She loved the swings and the slides, her laughter filling the air as she played. Watching her, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride and joy. But I also felt a pang of anxiety. Balancing work, parenting, and maintaining a healthy relationship with Rachel was a delicate juggling act. That evening, after putting Emma to bed, Rachel and I sat on the porch, enjoying a rare moment of quiet. "I've been thinking," I said, breaking the silence. "We need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves too. It's easy to get lost in the chaos of parenting, but we can't forget about us." Rachel nodded, her eyes reflecting the same thoughts. "You're right, John. We need to carve out time for each other, even if it's just a few minutes a day." We decided to implement a weekly date night. Sometimes it was as simple as watching a movie together at home after Emma went to bed. Other times, we arranged for Lisa or my parents to babysit so we could enjoy a night out. These moments of connection strengthened our bond and reminded us why we fell in love in the first place. In addition to our relationship, we also focused on our well-being. Rachel continued to pursue her passion for baking, often experimenting with new recipes and sharing the delicious results with family and friends. I found solace in photography, capturing the beauty of our everyday lives and the world around us. One weekend, we planned a family trip to the mountains. It was a chance to disconnect from the daily grind and reconnect with nature and each other. We hiked, explored, and spent quality time together, creating memories that would last a lifetime. During one hike, as we reached a scenic overlook, Rachel turned to me, her eyes shining with happiness. "John, thank you for this. I needed it more than I realized." I smiled, wrapping my arm around her. "Me too, Rachel. This is what it's all about, taking time to appreciate the journey and the people we love." The trip was a reminder that while challenges were inevitable, we had the strength and resilience to overcome them. We returned home refreshed and more connected than ever, ready to face whatever came our way. As Emma grew older and more independent, we found a new rhythm in our lives. Each phase brought its own set of challenges, but also immense rewards. We celebrated her milestones, from her first steps to her first words, and every achievement in between. Watching her grow and learn was a constant source of joy and pride. Our home, once filled with the uncertainty of new beginnings, had become a sanctuary of love, support, and growth. Rachel and I had weathered the storms together, emerging stronger and more united. As we stood on the porch one evening, watching the sunset and reflecting on our journey, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we were ready to face them together. Life was a beautiful, unpredictable adventure, and with Rachel and Emma by my side, I felt capable of embracing every moment, every challenge, and every joy that came our way. The years seemed to fly by, each one marked by new milestones and cherished memories. As Emma grew, so did our family's sense of unity and happiness. Every achievement, big or small, was a reason to celebrate, and we made sure to savor each moment. Emma's first day of kindergarten was a particularly emotional milestone. Rachel and I held her hands as we walked her to school, her backpack bouncing with each excited step. At the school entrance, she turned to us with a confident smile. "I'm a big girl now, Mommy and Daddy." Rachel's eyes glistened with tears, and I felt a lump in my throat. "Yes, you are, sweetheart," I said, hugging her. "Have a great day. We're so proud of you." As we watched her join her new classmates, Rachel squeezed my hand. "Can you believe how fast she's growing up?" I shook my head, marveling at the passage of time. "It feels like just yesterday we were bringing her home from the hospital." The school year brought many firsts: Emma's first report card, her first school play, and her first best friend. We attended every event, cheering her on and celebrating her accomplishments. Each milestone was a testament to her growth and our commitment as parents. One sunny weekend, we decided to celebrate Emma's birthday with a backyard party. We invited her friends, set up a bounce house, and decorated the yard with colorful balloons and streamers. Rachel baked a stunning unicorn cake, complete with rainbow layers and glittering frosting. As the children played and laughed, I took a moment to soak in the scene. Our backyard, once a blank canvas, was now a vibrant space filled with joy and love. Emma's laughter echoed through the air, a sound that never failed to warm my heart. Rachel joined me, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "It's perfect, isn't it?" she said, handing me a glass. "Perfect," I agreed, clinking my glass against hers. "You did an amazing job with the cake, by the way. It's a masterpiece." She laughed, her eyes twinkling. "Thank you. I just wanted to make her day special." And it was special. Emma's face lit up with delight as we sang "Happy Birthday," and she blew out the candles with a joyful cheer. Watching her open her presents, surrounded by friends and family, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. As Emma grew older, we continued to celebrate her achievements and milestones. Her first time riding a bike without training wheels, her first piano recital, and her first camping trip. Each event was a cause for celebration and a reminder of how much she was growing and learning. Rachel and I also made sure to celebrate our milestones as a couple. Our anniversaries became cherished traditions, each one a reflection of our journey together. For our 5th wedding anniversary, we returned to the seaside town where we had spent one of our first weekends together. We walked along the beach, reminiscing about the early days of our relationship and marveling at how far we had come. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Rachel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "John, there's something I've been thinking about. I'd love to have another child." Her words took me by surprise, but they also filled me with excitement. "Really? You want to expand our family?" She nodded, her eyes shining with love. "Yes, I love being a mother, and I think Emma would be a wonderful big sister." I smiled, feeling a surge of happiness. "I think it's a wonderful idea, Rachel. Let's do it." The decision to have another child brought a new wave of excitement and anticipation. We talked to Emma about the possibility of having a sibling, and her face lit up with joy. "I can't wait to be a big sister," she exclaimed. Rachel's second pregnancy was a journey of its own. We experienced the familiar joys and challenges. But this time, we had Emma by our side, eagerly awaiting the arrival of her baby brother or sister. She helped decorate the nursery, picking out toys and books that she thought the baby would love. The day finally arrived when Rachel went into labor. This time we were more prepared, but the emotions were just as intense. Emma stayed with Lisa, who promised to keep her entertained and updated. In the hospital, Rachel and I held hands, sharing a silent understanding of the miracle unfolding before us. After hours of labor, our son was born, a beautiful, healthy baby boy. We named him Ethan. Holding Ethan in my arms for the first time, I felt a surge of love that was both familiar and new. Rachel, exhausted but radiant, smiled as she cradled him. "Welcome to the world, Ethan. We've been waiting for you." Introducing Emma to her baby brother was a heartwarming moment. She approached the hospital crib with wide eyes, her curiosity and excitement palpable. "Hi, Ethan. I'm your big sister," she whispered, gently touching his tiny hand. Rachel and I exchanged a look of pure joy. Our family had grown, and our hearts were fuller than ever. As we brought Ethan home, we felt a renewed sense of purpose and love. Life with two children was busy and sometimes chaotic, but it was also filled with laughter, love, and countless precious moments. Emma embraced her role as a big sister, helping with diaper changes and singing lullabies to Ethan. Our home was a place of constant activity and joy, a testament to the love we had built and the family we were nurturing. As Rachel and I stood on the porch one evening, watching the sunset with Ethan in my arms and Emma playing in the yard, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. Our journey had brought us here, to a place of love, resilience, and endless possibilities. The challenges we faced only strengthened our bond, and the milestones we celebrated were a reminder of the beautiful life we were creating together. With Rachel, Emma, and Ethan, I knew that the future was bright and filled with hope. As our family settled into the rhythm of life with two children, Rachel and I focused on nurturing not only our children, but also our relationship. We understood that maintaining a strong partnership was crucial for our family's happiness and stability. Despite the busyness of parenting, we were determined to keep our bond strong and vibrant. One evening, after a particularly long day of juggling work, school activities, and baby care, Rachel and I sat on the porch, enjoying a rare moment of quiet. The stars twinkled above us, and the cool night air was refreshing. "We need to make more time for us," Rachel said, her voice thoughtful. "I miss our long talks and spontaneous dates." I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "You're right. Let's make a pact to prioritize our relationship. How about we start with a regular date night? Just the two of us." Rachel smiled, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "I'd love that, John. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just time for us to reconnect." Our first date night was a simple dinner at our favorite local restaurant. We talked about everything and nothing, enjoying each other's company without the usual interruptions. It felt like a return to the early days of our relationship, a reminder of the deep connection we shared. We laughed, reminisced, and made plans for the future. As the weeks went by, we kept our promise to each other. Some nights we went out, while other times we stayed in, cooking together or watching a movie. Each date night was a chance to reconnect, to nurture the love that had brought us together. It wasn't always easy to carve out the time, but we both knew it was essential for our relationship and our family. One Saturday morning, we decided to take a family trip to a nearby nature reserve. It was a beautiful place, filled with hiking trails, a serene lake, and picnic spots. Emma and Ethan were thrilled, their excitement infectious. We packed a picnic lunch and set off on an adventure. Hiking through the woods with Ethan in a baby carrier and Emma leading the way, I felt a deep sense of contentment. We stopped by the lake, spreading out a blanket and enjoying our picnic while soaking in the beauty around us. Emma and Ethan played together, their laughter a symphony of pure joy. Rachel and I sat side by side watching our children and feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "This is what it's all about," Rachel said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "These moments, these memories, I wouldn't trade them for anything." "I couldn't agree more," I replied, kissing her forehead. "Our family, our love, it's everything I ever wanted." As our children grew, we continued to find ways to strengthen our family bonds. We established family traditions, like Friday game nights and Sunday morning pancakes. We took regular family vacations, exploring new places and creating lasting memories. Each experience brought us closer together, reinforcing the love and connection we shared. One particularly memorable trip was a camping adventure in the mountains. We pitched a tent, roasted marshmallows over a campfire, and told stories under the stars. Emma and Ethan were fascinated by the night sky, their eyes wide with wonder as they spotted constellations. Sitting by the campfire, Rachel and I marveled at how far we had come. The journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also been rich with love and growth. Our children were happy and thriving, and our relationship was stronger than ever. Back at home, we made it a point to support each other's passions and interests. Rachel continued to bake, her creations delighting family and friends. I pursued my love of photography, capturing the beauty of our everyday lives and the special moments we shared. We encouraged Emma and Ethan to explore their interests, fostering an environment of curiosity and creativity. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Rachel and I sat on the porch, reflecting on our journey. "John, I'm so grateful for everything we've built together," Rachel said, her voice filled with emotion. Our family, our home, our love, it's more than I ever dreamed of. I took her hand, feeling a deep sense of pride and happiness. Me too, Rachel. We've created something truly special, and I know that whatever the future holds, we'll face it together. As we sat there watching the stars and feeling the warmth of our love, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more milestones, and more moments of joy. But with Rachel by my side, I felt ready to embrace whatever came our way. Our family was our greatest achievement, and the bonds we had forged were unbreakable. Together, we would continue to build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And as I looked at Rachel, I knew that our greatest adventures were still to come. As the years passed, our family continued to grow and evolve. Emma was now a spirited 9-year-old, full of curiosity and energy, while Ethan, at 5, was developing his unique personality, a blend of mischief and charm. Life was good, but as always, new challenges emerged, testing our resilience and the strength of our bonds. One autumn, Rachel and I noticed that Emma was having difficulty in school. Her grades were slipping, and she seemed withdrawn and anxious. We were concerned and decided to meet with her teacher, Mrs. Parker, to understand what was going on. Emma is a bright and capable student, Mrs. Parker explained during our meeting, but she seems distracted and isn't participating in class like she used to. Have you noticed any changes at home? Rachel and I exchanged worried glances. At home, Emma had become more reserved, often retreating to her room after school. We hadn't realized how much she was struggling. We'll talk to her and see what we can do to help, I said, feeling a knot of concern in my stomach. That evening, Rachel and I sat down with Emma. We spoke gently, trying to understand what was troubling her. After some coaxing, she finally opened up. I'm scared of school, she admitted, tears in her eyes. Some kids are mean to me. They make fun of me, and I don't know why. My heart broke for her. Bullying was something I had hoped she would never have to face. Rachel hugged Emma tightly. Sweetheart, we're so sorry you're going through this. We're here for you, and we'll do everything we can to make it better. We reached out to the school administration, advocating for Emma and working with them to address the bullying. They implemented measures to ensure a safer environment, and we enrolled Emma in a supportive group where she could share her experiences and build her confidence. At home, we showered her with love and encouragement, reminding her every day of how special and loved she was. Meanwhile, Ethan was also facing his challenges. He had always been an active child, but recently his energy seemed boundless, and he struggled to focus on tasks. His preschool teacher suggested that we have him evaluated for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Rachel and I were initially hesitant, but we knew that getting a proper diagnosis was important for Ethan's development. After a series of evaluations, the diagnosis was confirmed. We began to educate ourselves about ADHD, seeking advice from specialists and joining support groups for parents. We implemented strategies at home to help Ethan manage his energy and focus. We created structured routines, provided clear and consistent instructions, and celebrated his achievements, no matter how small. It was a learning curve for all of us, but we were determined to give Ethan the support he needed to thrive. Amid these challenges, Rachel and I leaned on each other more than ever. We made time for our regular date nights, ensuring that we stayed connected and supported each other through the ups and downs. Our love for each other and our family was the anchor that kept us grounded. One evening, after a particularly trying day, Rachel and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Some days it feels like we're just barely keeping our heads above water, Rachel said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. I took her hand, squeezing it gently. I know, but we're in this together, and we're doing everything we can for our kids. They're going to be okay because they have us. Rachel smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. You're right, we're stronger together. As we navigated these new challenges, we also found moments of joy and celebration. Emma began to regain her confidence, excelling in her supportive group and making new friends who appreciated her for who she was. Ethan, with the right strategies in place, started to thrive in his unique way, and his boundless energy channeled into creative and constructive activities. Our family outings became a source of solace and joy. We took trips to the zoo, went hiking in the mountains, and spent weekends camping under the stars. These moments of connection and adventure reminded us of the beauty and strength of our family bond. One particularly memorable trip was a visit to a national park. We hiked along scenic trails, explored waterfalls, and camped by a serene lake. On our last night, as we sat around the campfire roasting marshmallows, Emma and Ethan shared their favorite parts of the trip. "I loved seeing the deer," Emma said, her eyes sparkling. "They were so graceful." Ethan grinned, his face sticky with melted marshmallow. "I liked the waterfalls. They were loud and awesome." Rachel and I exchanged a look of pure contentment. Despite the challenges, our family was happy, thriving, and growing closer each day. "I think this has been one of our best trips yet," Rachel said, her voice filled with pride. As we lay in our tent that night listening to the sounds of nature, I felt a deep sense of peace. The challenges we faced had only made us stronger, and our love for each other and our children had grown even deeper. Back at home, we continued to face each challenge with determination and love. We sought help when needed, celebrated our victories, and supported each other through the tough times. Our family was our greatest source of strength and joy, and with Rachel by my side, I knew we could overcome anything. Standing on the porch one evening, watching the stars with Rachel, Emma, and Ethan, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Our journey had been filled with trials, but it had also been rich with love, growth, and beautiful moments. Together, we would continue to face whatever came our way, united in our love and commitment to each other. Life had a way of becoming a series of routines, especially with the demands of raising a family. While Rachel and I were deeply committed to our children and each other, we realized that we had let some of our passions and interests take a back seat. It was time to rediscover those aspects of ourselves and to nurture our individual growth. One evening after the kids were in bed, Rachel and I sat down to talk about it. "John, I've been thinking a lot lately," Rachel began, her expression thoughtful. "I miss baking for more than just family. I want to start sharing my passion with others again." I nodded, understanding her completely. "I feel the same way about photography. I've been so focused on work and family that I haven't had much time for it." We decided to carve out time in our schedules to pursue our passions. Rachel started baking more frequently, experimenting with new recipes and techniques. She joined a local baking club, where she found a community of like-minded individuals who shared her love for creating delicious treats. She also began to participate in local farmers markets, selling her baked goods and receiving rave reviews. On Saturday, Emma and Ethan helped Rachel set up her booth at the farmers market. The table was laden with an array of beautifully decorated cupcakes, cookies, and pies. Emma took charge of arranging everything perfectly, while Ethan enthusiastically handed out samples to passers-by. "Mommy, can I try one of the lemon bars?" Emma asked, eyeing the treats with a hopeful look. Rachel laughed and handed her a piece. "Of course, sweetie, you're my best taste tester." Watching Rachel in her element, interacting with customers and sharing her passion, filled me with pride. She was doing what she loved, and it showed in every smile and every delicious bite. Meanwhile, I dusted off my camera and started taking photographs again. I began with our family outings, capturing candid moments of joy and laughter. Then, I expanded my focus, exploring the natural beauty of our surroundings. I found solace and inspiration in the world around me, each photograph a testament to the wonder of everyday life. One weekend, I decided to take a photography workshop to hone my skills. The workshop was held in a picturesque town known for its stunning landscapes and vibrant culture. It was an opportunity to immerse myself in my passion and to learn from seasoned professionals. As I wandered through the town, camera in hand, I felt a renewed sense of excitement. I captured the play of light and shadow on old brick buildings, the vibrant colors of the local market, and the serene beauty of a nearby river. Each photograph was a piece of art, a reflection of my perspective and creativity. At the end of the workshop, our instructor organized a small exhibition for us to showcase our work. As I walked through the gallery, admiring the diverse range of photographs, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment. My photos were displayed alongside those of my peers, each one telling a unique story. When I returned home, Rachel and the kids greeted me with excitement. "Dad, did you take lots of pictures?" Ethan asked, bouncing on his toes. "I did," I replied, showing them a few shots on my camera. "I'll print some of these and hang them up at home." Emma looked at the photos with awe. "They're beautiful, Dad. You should show them to more people." Rachel smiled. wrapping her arm around me. "Emma's right. You should consider doing an exhibition here in town." Her encouragement meant the world to me. With Rachel's support, I approached a local gallery about displaying my work. The gallery owner was enthusiastic and offered to host a solo exhibition. It was a thrilling opportunity, and I poured my heart into preparing for it. On the night of the exhibition, the gallery was filled with friends, family, and art enthusiasts. My photographs adorned the walls, each one a glimpse into my journey of rediscovery. Rachel stood by my side, her pride evident in her eyes. Emma and Ethan ran around excitedly, showing the photos to their friends and explaining the stories behind them. As I mingled with the guests, I received praise and encouragement for my work. It was a validating experience, reaffirming the importance of pursuing one's passions. The exhibition was a success, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Rachel and I continued to support each other in our creative endeavors. We made it a point to attend events and workshops together, fostering our growth both individually and as a couple. Our shared experiences brought us closer, enriching our relationship and strengthening our bond. One evening, after a particularly successful farmer's market and a day spent photographing a beautiful landscape, Rachel and I sat on the porch, reflecting on our journey. "I'm so proud of you, Rachel," I said, taking her hand. "You're an incredible baker and an amazing partner." Rachel smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "And I'm so proud of you, John. Your photographs capture the beauty of the world in a truly special way." As we sat there, watching the stars, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had faced challenges and grown together, rediscovering our passions and supporting each other every step of the way. Our love had deepened, and our family was stronger than ever. Life was a journey of continuous growth and discovery. With Rachel by my side, I knew we would continue to embrace our passions, nurture our family, and create a life filled with love, joy, and endless possibilities.